Ja, einen wunderschönen Nachmittag. Buon pomeriggio, ragazzi. Es ist wunderbar, hier zu sein. Es fällt natürlich schwer, bei diesem wunderschönen Wetter hier einzukehren. Und gleichzeitig muss ich Ihnen sagen, finde ich es ganz fabelhaft, so viele spannende Schriftstellerinnen und Schriftsteller hier zu erleben, zu hören, viele denkende Menschen hier zu erleben, sich auszutauschen. Und so heiße ich auch Sie ganz herzlich willkommen hier auf dem Monte Verita zu einer Lesung mit einer sehr besonderen Schriftstellerin. Wir werden gleich auf Englisch das Ganze weitermachen und Sie alle sind wahrscheinlich ausgerüstet, die es möchten, um das Italienische bzw. das Deutsche zu hören. So I will just continue now in English. Hello to everybody. Well, and now let's roll up, signore e signori, the red carpet to Zeruya Shalev. Shalom, Zeruya.
Shalom, shalom. Thank you so much.
Brucha haba, shalom. Great
Shalom,
to see
shalom.
you.
I have to say that I'm so sad I couldn't come. I'm so sad I'm not here with you now. Traveling became so difficult and so risky nowadays. But I really miss it, and I miss meeting you all after the reading and talking to you. And but at least I can see you.
At least we can see you and listen to you, dear Zeruya, and we know that times are difficult and hopefully we will come, well, to another future that makes everything a bit, well, more delightful. Let's say it like this. We are very happy you are here at this festival with your recent book, Schicksal, Fate. And actually this time, or actually when I read your books, whenever I start a book of yours, I immediately find myself in the Zeruya sound and flow. It's a language on its own. It's a mixture of poetry, biblical pictures, but with something very contemporary in the ductus, and at the same time somehow also drastic. So I would be curious to ask you, how would you describe your literary voice yourself?
Well, my dear, you described it so beautifully, and I'm not sure I have much more to say. Marcel Reich-Ranitzky, he used to say that writers don't understand their writing, or they understand the writing like the way the birds understand ornithology. I hope it's I hope I translated it clear. But yes, sometimes I feel I'm only a bird. I don't know how it happens. But what I can tell you is that, I think I got it as a gift in a way, because I never looked for my voice. I never looked for my language. It came out in a very fluent way without an effort. I think it's like my own authentic voice that I was lucky not to have to look for it. But on the other hand, don't think it's too easy, because it comes, but then I have to rewrite it and to polish it and to make it more correct and more beautiful. And so on the one hand, it's a kind of a gift, but on the other hand, it's a lot of work to create one sentence, I would say.
And knowing the way how you are writing, it even becomes more sophisticated, because you write with only one finger on the computer, which
That's right.
takes quite a time, I guess. Amazing enough, actually. When I saw it for the first time, I was really, what? I can't believe it. And such an output of such a special language. And for me, Zeruya, actually, your language also represents a piece of today's contemporary Israel, a country full of history, stories that go back to biblical times, the very special landscapes, and the country itself always plays a role actually within your books, the food, the plants, the atmosphere. Could you also imagine to write somewhere else, or let's say about another country, another atmosphere?
No. No, actually, no. I mean, I feel that I'm so rooted in Israel, and I'm so interested and so connected to its history and its people. And no, I cannot see myself living in another country or writing in or about another country. You know, Chernyakhovsky, the famous Jewish Israeli poet. I think he died like almost 100 years ago. He had a very, very famous sentence that I would like to quote in Hebrew, Shelley. It's "Ha'adam eino ela tavnit nof moladeto." But in English, I would say it's a person is none other than a reflection of his homeland. And I agree with it, and I agree with him. And yes, I see myself as this kind of reflection.
A reflection of his or her homeland and also biography. Let's talk about your biography in only some sentences for the audience here. So Zeruya Shalev was born in 1955 on a kibbutz in the Galilee, at the Sea of Galilee. She studied then biblical studies and lives with her family nowadays in Haifa, in the northern part of Israel. Her multi-awarded winning trilogy, maybe you know it, on modern love, life, Liebesleben, Man and Woman, Mann und Frau, Late Family, Späte Familie, has been translated into over 20 languages, and her most recent novels have been Pain, Schmerz, and now Fate, Schicksal in German. What kind of literature did you grow up by yourself? With what kind of language, actually? Because you started your writing process by writing poems, Zeruya.
Yes. I started writing when I was very young. I was 6 years old, actually. The minute I learned the alphabet. And yes, it was always very natural for me. It was almost as natural as breathing. I wasn't old enough to know what I'm doing. I was just writing, mainly poetry. But lately I found a novel, like 200 pages novel that I wrote when I was 11.
Has it been published yet?
No, I don't. I'm not planning.
Interesting.
To publish it. But yes, I was mainly a poet, and I saw myself as a poet, and maybe I guess this is why when I moved to prose, I tried and managed to keep the spirit of the poetry into my prose. Well, but you asked about childhood books and language. So I am, of course, also a reflection of the language and literature we used to read at home. And I come from a very, very special home because my father used to read us Bible stories from a very early age, and Iliada and Odyssea and Gogol, Kafka.
Children books.
Exactly. and a lot of Jewish old books, legends from the Talmud and Midrash. So I grew up in a very secular house on the one hand, but on the other hand, it was full with literature and Judaism and Jewish literature, I can say, but also international.
Coming to the novel of Fate, it deals a lot with the history of the state of Israel. And I think I have just to tell the audience a few words about the setting, the historical setting. So maybe you know, before Israel's independence, before the establishment of the state, which was in the year of 1948, the territory of Palestine was under British mandate. In the wake of growing anti-Semitism in Europe and ultimately the Holocaust, of course, more and more Jews came to the country, and there were various resistance movements actually in Israel, or let's say in Palestine, in former Israel, against the British, including the organization that was called Lehi, an association of mainly young people who fought for independence. And in this story, in this book of Zeruya Shalev, Fate, Zeruya, you have combined the lives of two women of very different generations. There is a 90-year-old Rachel who left her parental home in 1944 as a 15-year-old teenager. She left to Lehi and to carry out attacks on British soldiers in what was the Mandate Palestine. And there is another woman in the book, Atara, that's her name, a nearly 50-year-old architect. She specializes in historic preservation and the reconstruction of old houses in Israel. I think she would love actually the Monte Verita area because of his history. And she has had a difficult relationship with her parents, especially her father, who also fought as a freedom fighter in the Lehi. And actually it's an adventure where this younger woman looks for the reasons for this difficult relationship to her parents, especially to her father. She wants to know what exactly drove him, why he saw her, his younger daughter, Atara, as a provocation. There's something in his biography she doesn't know about. And within his last days, when he's going actually or about to die, he would tell Atara, or he would say and call her not by her real name, Atara, but with Rachel. And all of a sudden, she understands there's something hidden in his history, who was Rachel. And those two women are going somewhere at some place to meet. So the story is strongly connected, actually, Zeruya, to that of your father. It's a book you trace a part of Israeli history, the history of the Lehi, of course, a radical Zionist underground organization. But your father was, as a matter of fact, part of the Lehi. What did he tell you about this time, full of violence, actually?
Yes, my father is quite different from Atara's father. Maybe he's more similar to Rachel in some ways, but yes, he was a Lehi member for almost 2 years. He was not a fighter. He was never a fighter. He used to write the propaganda for the Lehi. He was an intellectual. And unlike Atara's father, my father used to talk about the Lehi all the time. But he talked about it so much that we wouldn't listen. I mean, it was like too much. And somehow I think me and my brother, we both felt a bit irritated maybe by those sad stories and terrorism, of course. And so I remember that I was always under the impression that it was the most meaningful time in his life, that in many ways he never left it. But I, unfortunately, was not interested in hearing those stories. I mean, I felt like I know them all already. But many years later, when I started to write Schicksal, I realized how stupid I was, that I never really talked to him about it, because I have so many questions. And I mean, I became really fascinated to this issue. And it was a bit too late for him.
So let's,
and for me.
Yeah, let's talk about that kind of fascination you just mentioned. What exactly were the questions you had all of a sudden, and what made you being interested in the story?
Well, it always comes with the character, with the scene, with the story. I don't start with ideas usually, but Rachel was the first character who entered the book, and she brought with her the whole history of the Lehi and of these very stormy days, and through her personality, I think I tried to realize what kind of people they were. I mean, how you become so extreme, so fanatic. What is the structure of the personality of those fanatic people who were willing to pay such a huge price? And you know, this it was really a tragic organization in many ways, and I'm always attracted to tragic issues. So yes, I wanted to make them visible for myself first of all, and then for the others, and I wanted to understand.
Yes.
And maybe to be part of this time, this heroic time that I missed because I was born too late.
Well, but actually it's a timeless issue you're just talking about. But maybe let's just enter the book and hear a passage. And maybe I will just say a few words before we are starting the reading. In the story, after a while, as I said, it comes to an encounter between this old woman, Rachel, and the younger one, Atara. We're getting into the book now, listening a part where we get to know a bit Rachel, the older one, who's the 90-year-old protagonist who fought herself as a young woman in the Lehi, as we said, and she's remembering those old heroic, as you said, times, which were also traumatic times, as a matter of fact, full of violence, tensions, victims, and she thinks about what she should tell Atara when they're going to meet, and what better not. נשמע משהו בעברית עכשיו ובאנגלית וגרמנית ובאיטלקית. So we're going to listen now for German, Italian, Hebrew. What a mix of languages. Babylon.
האם תספר לה איך נהנה כל הלילה על הספה הנפתחת שקפיציה חורקים, עד שאם המשפחה נקשה על דלתם ושאלה אם יש צורך לקרוא לרופא שומר סוד, כפי שנהגו לעתים כשהחביאו פצוע. אני מקולל רחל, הוא גנח שוב ושוב. לא לחינם בחרתי בכינוי הזה. אני יפתח הגלעדי והיא הייתה ביתי, בתופים ובמחולות יצאה לקראתי ואני הקרבתי אותה. את ראית את המבט שלה, רחל? בניגוד לבת יפתח, היא ידעה מיד, הוא שב ומלמל. גופו הצנום נצמד אל הקיר, מרעיד מקור ומצער. היא ידעה שאני מלאך המוות. מי שירה לשיירה הוא מלאך המוות, ובו נאלץ להילחם, היא חזרה ואמרה לו, ללא הועיל. אסור לנו להתאבל כשהמאבק עוד לא נגמר. זכינו לחיות בתקופה שתחרוץ גורלות, להקריב את גופנו ואת נפשנו. בזכות המאבק הזה, הילדים שלנו ייוולדו למציאות אחרת. גם בלילה ההוא, כמו בלילה הזה, לא עצמה עין, צועדת שוב לצידו ברחובות הקרים, צעד אחר צעד, רגליהם הכבדות מן הגשם, מסרטטות בבלי דעת חידת דמים נוספת. רואה את הנערה בסמלת הצמר הכחולה ניצבת מולה בלי נוע לצד חבריהם המתים, בועז ואריה וישראל ואורי ואלחנן ושלמה וגדליה וצבי וחיים ועוזי ויוסף ושמואל וחמדה ורות ומאיר ושמש. היא האמינה שמותה של אתר השמיר ייסחף בזרם הגועש הרצחני של התקופה, ששמה יצטרף לרשימת הקורבנות שמסרו את חייהם למען שחרור המולדת. היא קיוותה שהאמונה בקדושת המאבק וצדקתו תטשטש את הנסיבות הבלתי נסבלות, האשמה, האחריות, כאילו נעשה בכמה נבלה. איך היא יכולה אז לשער את גודל השבר, את ההתפתחות שלה? כי במקפים הדלים כנסים מדי פעם, שעה 4 שעה זה כבר אותי, בצריפים דולפים בכוכים חשוכים של שכונת העוני, מנשיה וקרנים ושכונתיים, שוחחים ומגיעים לעתים עד הבוקר, כמעט תמיד הידו של מנו, היא אביב לטיעוניו, חיים לתלפי כמבנה ארכיטקטוני משל, ולא רק המפקדים היו מגיעים מדי פעם להתייעץ עם חריף השכל, המפליא לצטט את ג'ינסקי ואת מה, ולא פחות מהם את נביא ישראל. מה פשט ההתבטלות הזו בפני תרבות אירופה, חברים? נביאי ישראל הקדימו אותם בכל, אבל השאלה נעשתה שולית, שהתנועה שלהם נקראה מין לישראל, נרדפת בכיוונים. הם היו אנשים עם דעות שונות, אופי יותר מאשר דעות משותפת. לא במקרה היו שפע קומוניסטים וצבי אחים לנשק, אבל בסופו של דבר כמעט כולם בשאלה הגורלית ביותר, מי יהיה? דרכי הצעירה בם, המסע פחות נתתה לי ספק, אבל עם מנו רובין אי אפשר היה להתווכח. תושבי הערבי אינם אויבינו, חזר ואמר, נערכה כל אירוע על אפשרות, תחושה ככל שתהיה, של הבנה יהודית ערבית. אנחנו ניצור חזית משותפת עם לוחמי חירות ערבים נגד הבריטים. יש לנו אינטרסים משותפים לכל תושבי הארץ הזאת, ללא הבדל דת, גזע ולאום. אבל רציחתה של אתר השמיר, בתחילת החורף הנורא של תש"ח, בישרה את כל מה שעתיד היה להתרגש עליהם בחודשים הקרובים, על המדינה הצעירה, על התנועה המתפוררת ועל אהבתם שלא יהיה לה המשך ולא תהיה לה שארית. מה הטעם בכל זה עכשיו? היא נאנחת, מוטלת על גבה באפיסת כוחות, אפילו להתהפך על צידה אינה מצליחה. מעולם לא הרשתה לעצמה לעסוק בכך, לא דיברה על כך עם איש. החיים נמשכים אחרי אסונות גדולים מאלה, ברי נישאה שוב וילדה ילדים וכך גם הוא. לאהבתם לא נותר זכר, למשפחה שתכננו להקים בתום המאבק, לחיים שקיוו לחיות. הוא רצה ללמוד מדעים ופילוסופיה, והיא ספרות ומשפטים. הם חלמו על היום שבו יזכו לחיות בשלווה בארץ החופשייה, ולספר לילדיהם את סיפורי ההוד והגבורה. בראש השנה פרחה שושנה אצלי בגינה, היא שומעת את קולה הנרגש של שכנתה מהדירה ממול המתחילה לשיר פתאום, מלווה את עצמה בנגינת פסנתר נמרצת. בראש השנה, ליבנו ענה בתפילה נושנה. שיר אחד נותר לה, ועליו היא חוזרת שוב ושוב, בכל שעות היום והלילה. לרגע תתקנה בה על מוחה המתרוקן. כשעוד הייתה במיטבה לא חיבבה אותה כלל, השתדלה לחמוק מקרבתה, אבל עכשיו כשהידרדרה היא חסה עליה, בעיקר למשמע הגערות של המטפלת שלה, המנסה להשתיקה. לילה לישון היא צועקת, לילה לישון. האם שוב היא גוררת אותה בכוח למיטתה? היא צריכה לקום ולדפוק על דלתן כפי שהיא עושה מדי פעם. נוכחותה מרסנת את המטפלת רעת המזד, אבל אין לה כוחות וכל גופה דואב. שעות על שעות היא כבר מוטלת ללא תנועה במיטתה, פי היבש ועיניה פקוחות אל היום הגובע, או אולי זה כבר השחר העולה מבעד לתריס המוגף. אסור היה לה להסכים לפגוש את האישה הזאת, אסור היה לה לקבל את המכתב הזה, הוא מסוכן לה עכשיו, ובכל זאת אין דבר שתרצה יותר מאשר לראות אותה שוב. אפילו להושיט את ידה אל מכשיר הטלפון היא מתקשה, ואולי טוב שכך. האם היא מעניקה או גוזלת, מברכת או מקללת. בינתיים עוד יום הפציע, עוד פצע ישן נפער. זה יכול להיות יומה האחרון, חובתה האחרונה. בוקר טוב לך, אתרה, תאמר לבסוף. גרונה ניחר כאילו כל הלילה התייפחה או התווכחה. צר לי שלא הסתייע אתמול. אם תוכלי לבוא שוב היום, אספר לך על שמי את נקראת.
תודה רבה.
תודה לכם. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, did someone
really
understand
long.
the Hebrew version actually? Nobody, but they had the reading
Nobody.
part in other languages. Thank you so much. It's great to hear the original language. Well, those are some of the thoughts of Rachel, who is afraid actually somehow to be confronted with her own history. At the same time, actually, the stories you write about, they're not about historical things only. They are always kind of contemporary and very universal at the same time. They are about people's relationships. And nevertheless, there's a very fundamental question within this book, namely, what does the past have to do with us today? Do you have an answer to this?
Yes, I don't think, I mean, I'm not sure it's a full answer, but it is an answer. Well, you know, first of all, in all my books, the past plays a role. In this book, I think it's much more dominant, but still I'm, how can I say it? I'm a great believer in the past, in a way that we live in a kind of a chain, and one generation to another generation, there are so many links between what happened in the past and what is happening now and what will happen in the future. And I think that the presence of the past is very important. Sometimes it can show us the way. Sometimes it can show us what we shouldn't do. But I think that especially in a place like Israel, where the past is so dominant, I felt that in this novel, well, the past is really one of the protagonists, and the character of Rachel, she carries it she carries the history with her. You know, during my career, I was always trying to find ways how to deal with the Israeli reality in an integral way, in an authentic way, in a way that it will not control my books, that it will not swallow my books. And I think that in Schicksal, I hope I found, or I tried to find, a way to reflect the past and the history through a woman, through a human being. And it was very important for me that she will be a woman, a fighter, a Lehi member. I wanted to see it through her own perspective, not the usual male perspective. So, you know, when I realized that the history is such an important part in the personality of this woman and in the life of this woman, I felt like the door is open to dive with her to the history, to 47, 48, and to feel really like I'm there, to feel it very, very live. And so yes, Rachel made this book a book about the past. And of course, there is a very strong link to Atara, to her searching and her profession that also deals with the past. So yes, it's kind of interplay between the future and the past all the time.
You just mentioned it was important to you to have a female voice, especially on that very violent time. And normally we have, let's say, male narratives, especially on Lehi and other organizations, terrorist organizations. So what kind of material did you have for research, actually? Have there been some reports about women in the Lehi, or some, I don't know, some things they wrote about?
Yes, I found, I mean, at the beginning I didn't know much, but during the research, I found more and more evidences and stories. And I mean, Lehi was, well, I wouldn't say it was completely feministic movement, but there were a lot, well, it was very small movement, but still there were women there, and the women were dominant, and some of them were fighters. Mm-hmm. And I was, you know, I was reading so many stories. I saw a lot of interviews in the YouTube, and slowly I realized what will be her way. I mean, who is my Rachel between all those women that I read about? And I made a mixture of a lot of stories and biographies, and of course a lot is invented. And I also took some of my father's personality into her character. So it's a lot of elements.
Yes, a whole
were needed
mixture
to create one character.
But we have very strong female protagonists in this book. The men, I don't know, somehow they are kind of weak, I would say. And you were just telling us about writing in Israel, or let's say about Israel. You can't imagine write about other places, but what struck me and is completely new in this book, it takes place in Haifa, not only, but mainly, and not in Jerusalem, as most of the other books, let's say it like this. And while your other stories, were located in Jerusalem, so this time, actually, we get to learn Haifa, a very nice, very European northern city in Israel where Jews and Arabs live quite peaceful together. That's the city you are living for some years now yourself. Has it been a logical step for you to replace your writing now in another Israeli city, moving with you?
Well, yes, it was logical, and it was also kind of comforting, because it was not easy for me to leave Jerusalem, and writing about Haifa made it more meaningful for me. But you know, in literature, nothing is really coincidence, or I try not to leave any coincidence of the book, and I try to use, you know, filters in order to make all those literary decisions. So, of course, choosing Haifa, it was not only because I moved there. I felt that Haifa has also a role in the book, because it's a complete antithesis to where Rachel lives, next to Jerusalem, in this settlement. Maybe we will talk about it later. And Atara lives in a secular city, in a quite nice coexistence between Jews and Arabs, a kind of ideal Israel. Well, this is what attracts me so much on moving there, that it's kind of much more friendly and peaceful atmosphere between Jews and Arabs, and it is very, very important for me personally. But it was also important for the book in many ways, because I show like two different societies, or more than two. I mean, the kind of Orthodox society, the Breslov society, and the right wing, like the settlers in Ma'ale Adumim and Rachel. And on the other hand, this beautiful city that lives kind of a fantasy, even though it is not perfect. And I was very interested in this contrast between where Rachel lives and where Atara lives.
Yes. The atmosphere is quite different, and we sit actually in this novel a lot in the car, in traffic jams, because Israel is crowded of cars. You have very often traffic jams, and we sit with Atara in the car between Ma'ale Adumim, one of the biggest settlements actually next to Jerusalem, and Haifa in the north. How different, you just talked about actually the differences between those two actually cities, Ma'ale Adumim. Was it clear from beginning on to set those different women in different places, like Ma'ale Adumim, this settlement in the desert, very dry air, yes, and in Haifa, which is so green, it's a bit like here on Monte Verita. It's located on the Carmel Mountain, which is very green, called the Little Switzerland in Israel. So we have some parallels between this place and Haifa. Yeah. So was That's it from beginning on clear to you to set them there?
Well, you know, nothing was clear at the beginning. Writing is still such a mystery for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't plan a lot. I try to, I move while writing, and many of the ideas just come up to me while I'm in the movement. So I think at the beginning, no, they were located in completely different places. But then they had to move. So, it's like in real life sometimes. I have to find them a job. I have to find them where to live. I have to find them history, biography, everything. So it took a while until it became clear to me that Atara will live on the Carmel Mountain in Haifa, and Rachel has to live next to the desert in this huge city settlement, because Rachel couldn't live in a regular place. She's such an ideological woman. She's a woman of great ideological beliefs, and life for her. She's not here to have fun. She's not here to raise a family. She's here to remember. She's here to fulfill a goal. Mm-hmm. And the goal is, to live in this country, the country of the Bible, and to be to have the whole country to themselves. This was the dream. So yes, she lives in an ideological place. She was one of the people who established this place, and she stays there even though her son, that is a very extreme leftist, he's not willing to visit her there because it's a settlement, but she wouldn't move. She's this kind of woman that prefer ideas and ideals than human beings.
Strong ideology, and we can just see that it's very connected to many Israeli topics, and one topic is as well the Israeli military, because parallel to the story of the two women, it's also about Atara's family situation, which is quite complicated. It's a patchwork family. Her new husband's called Alex, and they have a son, Eden, who has served an elite troop in the Tzava, in the Israeli military, and seems to be in a fundamental crisis, actually. Why has it been important to you to tell his story as well?
Well, as I said before, I'm really interested in the chain of the generations. So, and I tried to find a lot of links between those generations, and in many ways, I think Eden is linked to Atara's father in many ways that he doesn't know and she doesn't know. And of course, the story of Eden, we won't make too many spoilers. It brings him to a completely different state of mind. This crisis, and he makes a huge surprise that we won't tell to Atara, with a very bizarre decision that he's going to make. So Eden was a very important part of the book, and yes, this army issue, as you know, it is such a huge issue in Israel. Whenever a baby boy is born, the mother, I think the first moment when she watches him, or at least this is what happened to me. The moment I saw my son, I thought, wow, in 18 years, the army will take him away from me, and then what will happen? We live with this fear of the army, of the wars, of the danger. So yes, it's an important part of our life here, and it has a lot to do with the story of Atara's father, and of course with the whole drama of the plot.
Yeah, and the drama of the country itself, of course. But in your stories, yes, Zeruya, regarding all your books, all your stories, the figures are very often in a situation where they have to make a personal, very significant decision. They have to make a choice, whether they start something completely new, even though they don't know yet what's going to happen, or they stay and risk to live the same way they have lived, even though they are not very happy with it. I think every one of us knows those kind of situations. And as a reader, I have always got the feeling to dive with you into hidden and secret feelings of somebody. Has it been something conscious for you while writing to develop somehow a conspirative relationship with your reader to see what's going to happen to a person?
Well, I'm not sure it is so conspirative. I think, well, it's very important for me to create this intimacy with the reader, with the characters. When every scene that I write, I try to get myself inside in the deepest way I can, in order to make it intimate, in order to make it close. So yes, I can say that I wish. I don't think about it a lot when I write, but of course when I go over the last drafts and when the book comes out, I always have the same wish that my books will create some comfort or some knowledge or some understanding, or at least to make the readers feel less lonely, or to create kind of emotional process, or I don't know, maybe it's too much to wish for, but I feel that literature is much more than just entertainment or escapism, and I'm looking for intimacy and warmness and way of communication.
You said before you have, of course, to create a whole personality. What kind of professions do they have? My figures, what kind of history, what kind of character? And I think Atara's profession is quite interesting in the book, because also she deals also with a past in her profession, being an architect, but specialized on preservation of old buildings and the structure of old buildings. So I guess that's not a coincidence. She has this kind of job, no?
No, not a coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence. In my books, I work very hard in order not to leave any coincidence. But yes, well, it's not easy to find a job for your character. It's not always easy sometimes.
Not easy in real life, and not easy for your protagonists. Okay.
Of course. And I had some ideas, and I had to check this idea and that idea, and what will fit her and what will fit the plot, while I wasn't still sure about the plot. At first she was don't even remember. I had all kinds of ideas, but well, it took a few months until it became completely sure that this is her profession, and I had to open an office for her and and to find a partner for her. So, but yes, you know, when I learned about this process of preservation, it was so fascinating. The way that those architects try to they try to make it not only to preserve it as it was, they try to make it relevant, and to make the building relevant again, and to enable the building to have another life circle. And I think it's so beautiful, and I enjoyed to follow her and to accompany her while at her work, and of course it has a lot to do with her personality, her sensitivity to the past, to the story that we read in the book, actually.
In the end of our talk, let's become a bit political, Zeruya, talking again about Lehi. What role does Lehi play in the Israel narrative nowadays?
Well, I would say not a huge role. Not a huge role. Well, you know, when Lehi disappeared slowly, some of them became very extreme to the left, some of them became very extreme to the right. So I guess some of their followers are now in the settlements and in the Israeli right-wing population. But for me, it was not the story. The story was to try to examine in literary ways, because literature is such a great medium to examine politics and historic movements, to see the depth of it, to see how complex it is. And this I tried to show how, first of all, how many ideas were then at the time, and how stormy and dramatic those days were, and to show this very little group of people who were fighting and dreaming without judging them, and trying to see their pain.
I thought it's a very political book, because we rethink Israeli history with the view of Rachel and also Atara exploring this part of Israeli history. What do you think? Is it, or has it been your most political book even?
Yes, I think so. I think so. As I said before, it comes, I mean, the book brought the politics with it. It's not that I was planning to write a political book, but when Rachel arrived to the book and brought the Lehi issues, and so of course I became much more involved myself emotionally in those stories, and yes, and I opened many more windows to political ideas and to the Israeli politics nowadays. can say, because there are so many tensions in the book that reflect Israel today.
One last question, dear Zeruya. Has there been a new project? Are you going to write something new right now?
I hope to start soon. Wish me luck.
We will.
It's so frightening to start again. You know, every book is like the first book. So I'm nervous like I never wrote a word before.
I think that's not true. You wrote before.
Keep your fingers crossed.
We will, definitely. We are looking forward to this and wish you a lot of forza and luck and also fun with one finger. Zeruya Shalev, toda raba lach. All the best for you. Kol tuv. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was such a pleasure.
And let's clap our hands for Zeruya Shalev.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Toda, toda, toda.
Bye-bye. Litraot. Shalom.
Litraot. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Stay
healthy.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
We hopefully will. Yeah, thank you, dear audience, for being with us and listening to Zeruya Shalev. And if you have some questions, I can try to answer them because I had the opportunity to talk to her very often, but I will just try. I mean, I'm not Zeruya, of course. So thanks for being with us here. Have a nice break, have maybe a coffee, and take some air. Bye-bye.